Good evening, folks. How we doing? Hopefully you're enjoying the beautiful meal we provided for you. In addition, to help you digest, absorb, assimilate your nutrients, what do we have?
Well, if you didn't notice, yes, we do have that. But back by the buffet, in between the two tables, we have Probezyme. So if you guys feel the need, you would like to have a couple of our probiotic enzyme blend. It's really, really good and helps you digest. It is back there. And then, to answer your question about dessert, ma'am, we have Glucolyze, which is also back by the dessert table, which can help you manage your blood sugar, so you're not going to get that spike. So if you're like me, that is my favorite wine hack. Dr. Shemesh knows very well that I will take Glucolyze before I enjoy any wine. You don't have to take that many. I just like insurance, okay? But we have Glucolyze back at the dessert table, and we also have Probezyme back there. Please feel free to try.
Doc said you may need to increase your dose tonight.
Hey!
Doctor's orders. I heard him. I don't know.
Okay, then. All right.
Well, thanks so much for coming. We know there's so many things you could be doing rather than be here, so we really appreciate you supporting us tonight. So who's here at a Nutritional Frontiers event for the first time?
Wow, we got a lot of rookies. They don't know what they're in for.
Lock the door. Don't let them leave yet, okay? Once dinner's over, that's it. Well, thanks for coming out tonight. We do a lot of education. The company is based and founded on education. We are celebrating our 16th year. We'll be 17 on Ocho de Mayo, so we're not a brand new company. I do own the company 100%, and I let you know that so that you understand that you actually had dinner with the owner. If you think about some of the other companies you have in your place, when's the last time you had dinner with their owner? Or do you even know who the owner is? So we are a family-owned business. If you want to get a hold of me anytime, like I mentioned earlier, you have my business card. So thanks for coming out tonight. And I guess the rest of you have been to our event before. Who has been to an event before?
Quite a few.
Whoa,
All right.
There we go. Thank you. So you must love all the pleasure and maybe some of the pain, right? So thanks for coming. We do a lot of education. The VIP dinners in the local areas. We do these twice a year right here in Tampa. And then we also do the monthly webinars. Dr. Len did a webinar last week. Was dynamite. Who saw that or heard it?
Dr. Len's webinar last Wednesday. Woo! Look at it.
New record attendance for a webinar.
We got fans.
And then we're leading right up to our professional training event, Practice What You Preach at the Beach, Transforming Through the Fire. We'll have not only Dr. Silva speaking, Dr. Len, myself, and about 8 incredible nationally known speakers right here in your backyard at Clearwater Beach at Sand Key. That's April 4th through the 6th. Do we have seats still available?
We do at this time, but we are filling up fast as usual. So if that's something you're interested in, please make sure that you let us know and we will get your reservation made. We also, we only have so many rooms blocked, so the sooner you get in, the more likely you'll be able to stay with us and have a great time.
So tonight, Dr. Silva is going to be talking about, of course, innovative solutions to cool the fire in the cardiovascular system. And he spoke recently in Pittsburgh in October, and he really brought it home. He connected all the speakers throughout the weekend, and one of the most requested speakers for future events. And he was really generous to actually come all the way here from Deerfield Beach. Not an easy ride, so if you guys hit some traffic locally, add another 4 hours on the trip. So we're excited to have him tonight. We're going to do a little intro to give you a little bit better idea. But Nutritional Frontiers has a few brand standards. One is quality. So every formulation that we have is through the CGMP manufacturing guidelines, which incorporates testing throughout the process. For what? Microbes, heavy metals, right? Label claim, toxins, molds. So every formula you get from us is manufactured in those plants, and we have the data. I'm going to show you, in fact, one tonight on the hydro beef. We had some questions this week on a new formula about heavy metals, so we got the data for you tonight. We are also an FDA, USA FDA registered company right out of Pittsburgh, PA. And all the facilities are GMP certified, and they are inspected by the FDA, okay? Most supplement companies do that too. The difference is that the ingredient selection. It's like if you go to Capitol Grill or you go to McDonald's. They both promote 100% beef. They're both inspected by the health department, right? What's the difference? The quality of ingredients. That's what we're going to really showcase tonight. We use a lot of innovation. My son has been working tremendously on this, and since COVID started, over 75 new or updated formulas, including one of my favorites that just came out. And I love the name, don't you? Max-Lax?
Oh my goodness.
It's a pretty cool name, and we actually have the formulator here tonight. Dr. Len, I know you're still eating. Would you like to comment briefly on the Max-Lax?
I will come to you. You don't have to go all this way.
Oh.
Hey, Phil, can you bring up the package insert for Max-Lax? Can you bring that up? Just so you know, when I wrote this down a while ago, the original name of this was Poop Complete. but they nixed that right away. So let me just say a couple things about this. I get a newsletter every month called Chain Store News, which I've gotten since I had my pharmacies. And it relates back to all of the information that goes on in Walgreens, Kmart, or Walmart, all the biggies. So I looked just recently into the Walmart and says, what's their number one category? The number one thing they sell more than anything, more than prescriptions, laxatives. Laxatives is the number one category, and they will move the laxative section around within their stores. So whenever they do a remodel, the laxatives move from here to the very back, so they want to draw you into the store because you're coming there looking for a laxative. So when we looked at this formula, there's a lot of laxatives, especially X-Lax, that's based on senna. And the thing that you have to realize is that this form of senna is what's called Sennicide B. This is the least invasive form, but also the most concentrated form of senna. Sennicot uses a flower. This uses the whole plant. So this is a differently extract, highly effective. Now, people have called me already and said, my God, I looked at Sennicot and it has 12 milligrams in it. This has 1.5 grams. Oh my God. If you look at the literature, you have to multiply that by 0.038 to get the actual stiviocides that are in there. So if you take the full dose, 3 capsules, you get 54 milligrams of senna. Highly, highly effective dose. That's the most effective dose of that. Psyllium husks in that form, one of the best forms of fiber, soluble fiber that goes into the system. Chia seeds to go along. So you've got a scraper, you've got the soluble fiber. That form of Lactobacillus reuteri, that is one of the most highly effective. Its number one indication is helping with constipation. Beta-glucan, a yeast derivative to, again, help to pull fluid into the colon. And then aloe vera, which is soothing the situation as well. So
Did you get a personal testimonial this evening from someone?
Dr. De Silva did give me a personal.
Yeah, he did. Dr. Silva. Dr.
Can he comment on this?
Hold on. we have a slight testimonial. Hold on. Oh, just move away from this microphone so we don't.
Yes, my wife had some issues. You know, women normally have issues with occasional constipation with menstrual cycles and things like that, fluctuating iron levels and things like that. So she took the new formula and it worked great.
Like a champ.
No.
Like 5 times.
Like multiple times.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm from New Jersey, so I would call it shit fast.
Thanks.
See, normally I would have said a friend of mine. He
called
is
his
a
wife
true
right
clinician, right?
Called her right out.
So we have a lot of innovations. Thank Dr. Len. It really helped me even understand the benefits of the formulation. But we come out with a tremendous amount. We like to use the right ingredients at the right doses, but more importantly, we like to use the right forms of the ingredients because that maximizes the absorbability, the assimilation in the cells, the ability to turn something on in the cells, and a gentle excretion of any byproducts. The reason we want to come out with these formulations, the reason we know is because we own the world of wellness still. The co-founder was Dr. James Weiner, very successful nutritional practice in Pittsburgh, and we have all the brands you guys carry. I'll spare you all the names. I worked at Metagenics for a long time. We carry all the top 25 brands. The challenge is with the products is not that they're no good, The problem is that the protocols are too wide, right? So when I sat down to do nutritional consults 16 years ago, and I wanted to put a woman on a Candida protocol, it was 4 products: Candibactin AR, BR, caprylic acid, and ADP from Biotics. And she says, why don't you just put it all together? I said, it's a great question. We're working on it. So we're known more for the custom formulations. That way, we can get our ultimate objective is 2 things. If you learn anything tonight, know that our sole objective is better results for your patients and better profits for your practice. That's all we want to do, and we're going to show you how. So the first differentiator we have is with our people. And speaking of people, the slusher's coming in right now. Nice to see you guys.
We love these guys. They had to come from Apollo Beach and travel and clients and patients and craziness. You feel free to go to the buffet. Do not be embarrassed. And the bar is back on the right because I know you probably need a drink after that drive.
And okay. Mark is a veteran, United States Marine Corps right here, so we're in safe hands tonight.
Woo!
How you doing, buddy? I see you, man. Yeah. You too. So the other big thing is the service. We have people that actually, no pun intended, we have people actually answer the phones in the office, right? 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Brett, you made it.
We have our people at the events, of course. We have access to all the brand ambassadors. And if you have any technical questions, quality control, we can get you the answers, okay? So what's the difference on Nutritional Frontiers? One is our people. And we introduced a lot of our people out here tonight, our people internally, and of course, you know, all of our clients, all of our partnerships with our vendors, you know, people at Albion and Gnosis, right? OmniActive. These are all the trademarked ingredients you're familiar with, some of them, right? We have great relationships with them. We went out to the Supply Side show in Vegas in October and learned about some incredible new ingredients we're going to be launching over the next 2 years. So number one is our people, and that includes you. So we look at this as a community we want to build, and if you feel that you're in alignment with what we're doing, great, we are accepting new clients. The great thing is, just like you, we are only working and playing with quality people because we have quality time, and our time is short. So if you want to join what we're doing in our mission to make the world healthy, welcome aboard. We really appreciate it. In fact, I believe we met you guys from each other, right? Yeah. So we have a lot of referrals in the room, and you know, Jacqueline and Dr. Berner. So it's really cool that our community is growing. And you know, we look at the differentiator number 2 is what?
Our formulations, which we've been talking about already tonight.
And you have any personal testimonials on your formulas you use?
Oh gosh, it's such a long list. So I told you my wine hack with glucolize, right? That's probably my favorite one. But when I first joined Nutritional Frontiers, going almost 3 years ago now, I was on blood pressure medicine. I was on 20, well, once they get you on it, right? They tell you gotta stay on it, right? So I was somewhat shamed by the fact that I was on blood pressure medicine by our wonderful sales, I'm totally teasing, sales trainer, Joe Messino, some of you know. And he talked to me about what I could do to get off of it. So then I talked to Dr. Len. And so I am on our 7 flours. I take 6 in the morning at 6 at night. And then
how many?
Hold
12.
on.
Quite a few.
It's also good for stress. You see who I work for, okay? All right. Dr. Len was with us in office at Jacqueline Shedden's office, and he said, you know, because you know how much Dr. Len loves studies and research, 7 flours at really high doses is also good for controlling schizophrenia. And I was like, really? That's fascinating. And Jacqueline says, oh yeah, we just told you it was for blood pressure. So regardless, you know, it's worked for me. So I use that, our Enerco Q10, and our CircuCore every day to manage blood pressure alone. And I'm honestly, I'm in you know, the best shape of my life since joining Nutritional Frontiers.
And off all medications. There we go.
Off all medications, yes.
So the cool thing is 7 flours, you may or may not be familiar with it. It's a really cool Chinese herbal formula. Dr. Weiner claimed that it's the original supplement in the world. It's been around over 1,000 years. We actually acquired the company about 18 months ago. And it works great for blood pressure, eye pressure, and acute stress, right? It's one of the things you're going to highlight. In addition, our people, our formulas, and our business model. We want to build a relationship with you and your staff and your patients, and we do not circumvent you. Unlike a lot of my friends' companies and most of the companies you sell in your office, we do not sell direct without you being involved. We've turned down Amazon 11 times, and we've made a decision to continue to go in our own direction, which is to become the best company, not the biggest company, right? In this world of bigger is always better, not necessarily. So we want to build a community with you, and we do that with our business model. So we understand your business is not product, it's patients. Being that we own the world of wellness still, we understand that challenge, right? So we're going to support you with all the different things, starting with education, sampling, marketing. Sometimes people look at us for technology, events, however we can help you out, we'll do that. So there's just my background, been doing this. Sunday's officially the start of my 34 years. Longer than some of you have been around. In the 90s, it was sports nutrition. And then I went to work for Dr. Bland until they sold. And then we started Nutritional Frontiers 17 years ago this coming May. So I have a strong passion in this. I feel like I'm just really hitting my prime. And when I get these calls all the time about purchasing us, I always listen, of course, but the answer is always no. We want to grow the business. Our vision is to double every 3 to 5 years, and we want to be with people like yourselves that want to grow with us. So, I don't know if you guys knew, but award-winning author right here, Christine Genovese.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. So I do have a couple copies of my book with me tonight. But I got a message from Best Holistic Life that has about 1.5 million subscribers on Monday that my book has been recognized as one of the top books to read in 2025, and they're going to do a feature in June.
Oh, congrats.
So pretty cool, huh? Yes, I just released it in October. So it's pretty exciting. And it's great because it's all about holistic healing and energy work and bringing all of the parts and pieces together so we can help people heal completely. So thank you guys for your support.
Oh, thank you. Congrats. One thing to realize is that our team is never incentivized to sell you anything. Okay, we're a business just like you are. We want to help you purchase what you need for your specific clients. That's why we have 12 categories. So we're going to go through a couple of these tonight. Dr. Silva hits really on cardiovascular and weight loss and cleansing. But this is something Harriet, Lori, and myself, our team can come in or by Zoom and show you. Some great booklets too to train on. But here's what I was talking about earlier. It's the amount of the ingredients, it's the form, and what else is in there we don't want. So here's some examples of some of the ingredients that we use. Biocell collagen for over 20 years. The Trax, this is really cool. You guys familiar with Albion or Trax minerals? So Trax stands for what? Chelating system. You were halfway there.
Good job, good
Yeah,
job.
I
You're going
love
to get
it.
a product later for remembering that
So
one.
I'm trying to do this in a simple description when you look at minerals, okay? I originally learned this from Dr. Jeff Bland, my mentor. So if you look at magnesium, it's very unstable, right? Calcium, magnesium, zinc, they're unstable, right? Chromium. So you got to stabilize them with something. So sometimes carbonate and oxides, they're like rocks, no good. Then you get into the citrates, a little bit better, but not much. And a lot of companies will take magnesium and take glycine and mix it, and they call it a chelate, right? It is. However, magnesium is really unstable. Think of magnesium as a soccer ball, right? And glycine is my hand. So if I hold the magnesium in my hand, it's good. What happens if I do this? Drop it, right? So that's why you need bisglycinate. I know Tony knows this. You need 2 glycine molecules, and they need to be covalently bonded to the magnesium. And when you do that, the bioavailability is over 90%. Interesting enough, a lot of larger companies have discontinued these after being acquired. Don't ask me, you should ask them. It's probably because of this, right? I heard a stat the other day. If Coca-Cola makes 1 penny more on every drink every day, it's $18 million a day.
Oof.
So when you think about why would a company change the ingredient, think about it on a large scale. Also, if a company does all tablets, they don't want to pay for the capsules, okay? So that's an example of a more bioavailable form. Glycine's not enough anymore. You need the bisglycinate. And we've used just about all their minerals over the years, and even in our powders. So something new that Dr. Lori Roman helped us come out with, she wanted a protein that was gluten-free, right?
Dun, dun, dun. You haven't seen this yet because it's not out until next week.
This is brand new.
Preview.
She wanted a clean protein that was stevia-free, gluten-free, and some of the pea and rice protein-free, right? So she actually showed this from another company. This is an example of a trademarked ingredient called Hydro Beef. And it's easily digestible, right? It has a full amino acid profile we're looking for because beef has a better amino acid profile. Beef actually has creatine naturally occurring in it too, right? Muscle recovery, it's very actually low in fat, this formulation. So you can get the benefits of the beef without the extra saturated fats that you would normally see. No allergens at all. So lactose-free, soy, gluten, non-GMO, clean label, and high biological value. The highest protein efficiency ratio is usually the egg, right? And then they looked at whey protein. This is even having a higher biological value than those do. So super clean and high quality formula. Here's a study, published study right here. The effects of beef protein and whey protein. They recommended 2 scoops. I was hoping Lisa would be her coach because with her GLP patients, I know Jacqueline does this also, right? When patients are losing weight, they don't really discriminate. The body actually wants to burn muscle, doesn't want to burn fat. So if you're doing weight loss, especially with GLPs or the old days HCGs or any of those things, I know you guys do too, you have to incorporate 40 grams of protein in a powder. Doesn't matter male, female, or how big they are. Just ran into a friend's sister-in-law, Joe's sister-in-law at a party, and I said, wow, she looks great. It's down 25, 30 pounds. And I said, how you doing? She goes, well, I was doing great until this. And she held her arm up, and it was like, I says, oh, the first 15's good. The last 10 you lost, I'm thinking, is muscle. So you can use any of our powders. We have, how many different protein powders do we have?
Oh my gosh, I can't name them all. Even if I just went by flavors. How many is it?
Well, we have Super Shake, which is vegan. We have Ultimate Shake, which is your meal replacement with the multivitamins, the trace minerals in there.
And by the way, we just came out with Ultimate Shake Chocolate for those of you who have been asking for that. It's delicious.
So we have Keto Shake. Yeah.
Ketos.
We have Best Way. And now we have the Hydro Beef.
And the Hydro Beef is 21 grams of protein, so you could get your 2 scoops right there.
So the studies show that lean body mass is improved in 8 weeks, fat loss, and strength increased on the whey and also the Hydro Beef. It's pretty cool. So published studies right on that. Here's actually the heavy metals because a lot of proteins have heavy metals in them. A lot of food has heavy metals, right? So here's the stats on it. This is parts per million. When you see, 0.00 of all the different things that we're looking for, right? Less than detectable levels of some of these. So you need the protein, but you need a super clean version. The other thing that we were talking about with proteins, you may or may not know this, when Coca-Cola got into this a few years ago with Gatorade G3, they brought up all the protein supplies. So costs went way up.
Yep.
So I talked to my friend who's our supplier, and we were having coffee, and I said, what are people doing? They're selling 2 pounds and 5 pounds. He goes, well, I can do that for you, but here's how. He goes, when you test a protein, you're usually going to test the amino acids, the branch chains. He goes, so you can spike your protein with branch chains, or you can dilute it with other cheaper forms of protein. I looked at him and he started laughing.
No way.
He
Absolutely
knew I
not.
wouldn't do it. He says,
Yeah.
this is what's going on in the industry, and it's quote unquote legal. So our protein gives you the net protein that's in there. We could adjust it 20% higher because Even the isolates are like 80 to 90% protein. You have your ash and moisture and things like that. But we give you net protein on the label. Now we have protein for anybody and everybody. My favorite, you want to know my favorite?
I think I know your favorite.
What is it?
It's the chocolate and peanut butter super shake together because it tastes like a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Close. Peanut butter super shake and chocolate lean greens.
Well,
2
you add the
scoops of
greens
each.
in too, but
Yeah.
you do.
Yes.
Okay. I
2
thought you were
scoops of
talking
each.
protein. What are you throwing me a loop?
Oh, I am
All right.
throwing you a loop. There we go. So that will be available soon. You can talk to Harriet. We're doing some pre-sales now. Really good formulation. It retails for less than $3 a scoop. I've seen a lot of other ones a little more money, so we tried to keep the pricing where we could. It is a little more expensive ingredient on our end.
I will tell you, it tastes delicious. There's a light chocolate flavor to it. It's not an overpowering flavor. And way back when I was a kid, I told Jamie today I was
How
kind of
many years
ashamed.
ago was that? You got the calculator?
Way back when. Rewind. It reminded me a little bit of Cocoa Puffs. Remember how it used to turn the milk chocolate, when we were kids and we didn't realize how bad that was for us? Anyway, it's a very light cacao flavor, so it's really nice.
And speaking of greens, we have chocolate greens. Anyone tried the chocolate greens yet?
Oh my gosh.
You like that?
They're amazing.
Anyone like the original Apple Jacks? We have that one too.
Those are good.
Doc likes
Those
both
are good
of them.
too.
So we try and provide different options for people. And we also have the recipe book to make it fun. It's right on our website. You can make protein bars and pancakes and all types of fun things. So I want to highlight a couple more ingredients before we turn over to Dr. Silva. SPMs is without a doubt the biggest game changer since I started in the field. The amount of research on it, over 1,000 published studies on PubMed for COVID alone, and over 2,000 published studies. What does SPM stand for?
Specialized pro-resolving mediators.
Oh, wow. You're on
I do
top
know
of
a
it.
few things, a couple things.
So I'm just going to highlight the research rather than you looking up all the studies. So there's a few things that are really key. One is pain is reduced 28.9% in 4 hours. We were doing an event last year in Texas. I grabbed my backpack in the lobby, and when I did, I tweaked around the scapula. It's just enough to annoy you, right? And I was a little desperate, so I even went to the front and said, do you have any Advil? Thank God they didn't. So I got in the car with Christine and Justin, the rep, and he had a bottle of SPM sitting there. I took 3 right away. By the time I got to the appointment, it took the edge off. I took another 3 at lunch, and then by the afternoon, I was good to go. So these pro-resolving mediators will actually do that. They will resolve unresolved inflammation, cooling down the cytokine storm. High sensitivity C-reactive protein, 43% reduction in 4 weeks. Dr. Len, you have a quick comment on that? Because I know that really gets you fired up.
Probably the best test that you can do for cardiovascular risk factors. It's the risk factors for a heart attack or a stroke. Statins have been proposed that would lower HSCRP, but every time they've done a study, it's failed. So the statins had virtually no effect on HSCRP. There is nothing that medicine has had, period, bar none, that can lower HSCRP like this.
And we have a bunch of tennis players in the room.
Hold on, Len,
know.
do you have any personal experience with SPM?
Oh, goodness. Oh, he wants to tell you about your Atlanta trip. Here you go.
On a Saturday, I ended up, we adopted a new puppy, and the puppy got out of the house, and I chased the puppy around the neighborhood, and she was ready to run out onto the interstate to get run over, and I lunged at her and caught her by the tail and fell down and hit a curb and broke 2 ribs. And that was on a Saturday. On Monday, I was driving to meet Jamie to do a seminar, and I had to drive almost 8 hours to get there. So I couldn't even take a deep breath. So I drove. It took a while. I got there. We did the seminar. The next morning, Jamie looked at me and said, "You look like you're going to pass out." And I said, "I've got 8 hours to drive home." He gave me this bottle, and he said, "Take 2 or 3 every 3 or 4 hours." And I did. Those 8 hours, I went in 2 weeks later, had the re-x-ray in my ribs. I was completely healed in 2 weeks.
Unbelievable.
It's real. And how amazing is he to drive 8 hours to do our Atlanta VIP with broken ribs? Come on, give him a round of applause for that.
There we go. So the cool thing is we have these in soft gels, and
Very cool.
what if you don't want to do a soft gel?
We are the only company with a liquid SPM. You can add it right to your shake.
So the great thing is this has EPA and DHA in it. So when you need the acute and chronic care to get the person from 70, 80 to 100%, bring in the SPMs. Once they're feeling really good, you can go back to fish oil. Okay, you don't have to do both. And I like to take one serving each day, and if I have any kind of pain or inflammation, I'll increase the dose. It works really well acutely also.
So I did mention we have a bunch of tennis players in here. That's one of my secrets to success, okay, is SPMs. It helps manage that inflammation on the court. I know I'm looking right at you, Sind. I am going to States in 2 weeks to play tennis, so I'm very serious about tennis. So I use our SPMs, our HA+, and our X-Flame. Because the X-Flame cools things down, the HA+ lubricates the joint, and the SPMs manage inflammation. So that is my secret trifecta for tennis.
The last ingredient I'm just going to briefly go over is DMG. Who's familiar with DMG?
Because it's darn mighty good.
There we go. Dimethylglycine. Tell your patients, darn mighty good. If you're my age, you can say STP in your gas tank, right? This will make all your cells work better. There's 3 U.S. patents. Someone asked me about TMG. TMG doesn't have 3 U.S. patents, and TMG, you have to break down the DMG. We actually use it in our Neuromax, but we prefer DMG overall. Melanoma, rheumatoid arthritis. Your patients are being told what when they have autoimmune? There's no cure. It's genetic. Start with NSAIDs. We'll bring in methotrexate, sulfasalazine, and all these other medications later. There's no hope for the patients. You can say our GI Complete was actually built for autoimmune. It has an ingredient with a patent on rheumatoid arthritis and OA when you mix it with green lip mussel. So DMG, fantastic. Here's the studies on the melanoma. If you haven't seen these, we can get copies for you. It's great to show the patients. A picture's worth a million words. Here's the tumors. They injected them with DMG, and then there they are after 8 weeks. Oh, let me try that again. That's when they're supposed to say, wow.
Everybody, come on.
All right, come on. I'm almost done. Don't worry.
Come on.
There we go.
Woo!
Oh,
Ooh,
hey.
come on, like fireworks. Okay.
So here's all the formulas we have. What's your favorite one up there? You can only pick one.
I'm only allowed to pick one? That's not cool. Well, I would say it's got to be the Proline Greens. I am a big fan of our greens. And I told you that I did a detox for a week, right? I did our detox program. I did our new Ultimate Shake chocolate with our chocolate Proline Greens and our Live Complete, which also has it. And I did that twice a day. And at night, I took our new Remove Complete that Dr. Lori Roman helped us formulate. And my little bit of belly is all gone. So I was very, very happy just after doing a 5-day detox.
Perfect timing this time of the year. So how about you, our brand ambassador, Jacqueline? What's your favorite DMG formula? Because I know you love it.
Coming, baby.
What's my favorite formula that has DMG in it?
Yeah.
Oh, Ultimate Shake.
Yes. And why is
It
that?
is in that, right?
And why
Yes.
is that? Yes.
Why is it? Because it works great and I can use it on everybody. And it tastes really good. And there's protein.
Yum, yum.
Thank you, dear.
Well, thanks so much, folks. You know, we want to grow as a company. We want to double every 3 years, and we need your help to do that. If you want to grow your business or you want to go with your business, we've helped people sell and acquire theirs. You can always let us know. If you're looking to work at another practice, let us know. Or maybe you're looking to hire people. We're building a community here. These are our business solutions and ways you can grow, bundling into protocols, education, so many different things that you can participate with. But it takes, of course, action. We're in the right place at the right time. Functional medicine is the only solution. There's 8 billion people on the planet. They're all a potential customer, right? We know medicine works well for acute trauma. It doesn't work well for chronic care. And guess what? 82% of all office visits are for chronic care. So I'm not against medicine and surgery. It's just being used at inappropriate times and over abuse of medications. So we're in this for the long haul. We're on a mission to make the world healthy. Thanks so much for coming out. Thanks to my incredible partner, Christine Genovese. And I'd like to give a nice, warm welcome to our speaker. Interesting story. Dr. Silva, I met him a few years ago, probably about 10 years. And he was in Rashid, the rep, who's a sweetheart. I don't say that about a lot of people, especially men, but he is. He said, you got to meet this guy. He's going to do this and this and on and on. And I says, okay, I've heard this before. So we go in his office, go up these stairs, down the hall. It's this tiny little room. We're waiting and waiting. And here comes Dr. Silva. About 3 hours later, after we were done talking, I says, wow, either this guy is going to be a brand ambassador and be one of the national speakers, I said, or he's nuts, right? Because you never know. A little bit of both.
Men's amends.
But he's a person that when he says something, he does it. And I've seen him over the years growing with his business from that little room to now he's an incredible medical clinic, probably the size of this room, if not bigger. He's got a staff second to none. His wife's supporting the business. And now he wants to be so generous to share his ideas. So we're so proud to have him as a brand ambassador. So let's give a nice warm welcome to Dr. Richard Silva.
Woo-hoo!
Everybody eating?
Would you like to hold or would you like it on you? All right, you guys can trade out. Anybody else, if you want to grab anything else to eat, you can do that right now. Or grab a drink. This is our slight 2-minute intermission. Restroom, whatever you might need. But trust me, you're not going to want to miss this. Dr. Silva also is known for having a lot of energy and being a really engaging and entertaining speaker, and we are so delighted to have him here. And it is about time to let it rip.
Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. I'm going to try to step out of my shadow here. It's good to see everybody back, some friends, some people that I've known for a long time. Welcome. We're going to have some fun today. Now I have to keep things honest because there's some doctors in the room like myself, so we want to make it good for them. And I'm going to give you guys useful information that you can bring home and use tomorrow in your practice, okay? This is not some esoteric speech on theories. This is things that are going on today in our community, in every single doctor's office. Doesn't matter what specialty you are, which kind of patients you see, you will, or not even what kind of doctor you are. It could be a chiropractor, a nurse practitioner, MD, DO, even nutritionist. It's going to impact all your patients. One thing you guys have noticed, this is no secret, we became much fatter as a nation, much unhealthier, especially over the COVID times, right? We're all doing the Uber Eats and getting all these processed foods. The restaurants were closing. In my town, you could only go to the food store at certain times, depending on your age. I think it was by age or something. Certain days you could go to Publix, some stupid thing like that. Wearing masks that don't work and things that didn't work. But anyway, luckily we got through that. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the new administration, they announced that the most likely, you know, the way they speak, most likely that the virus did come from the lab, the Wuhan lab. So they killed all those animals unnecessarily. It didn't come from that market, whatever bullshit they said. Excuse my French. I'm from New Jersey. I may slide some BS's out here and there. But, you know, so there's certain things that we knew. So the point is, we know things, right? In New Jersey, we say another word, but we know things. And turns out that what we think is happening actually is happening. So I'm going to point out some more things today about cholesterol and diabetes, which is the number one reason people are having heart attacks in their 30s and 40s. I read this stupid thing online or somewhere the other day that it said the number one cause of strokes is high cholesterol. That is completely not true, okay? It has to do with blood pressure, it has to do with inflammation. Cholesterol is a small part of that. And it's not even, there are different kinds of strokes, right? There are embolic strokes and hemorrhagic strokes. So that's just trying to scare people to go to your doctor and get prescribed medicines. I don't think most doctors even believe that. All right, so what are we talking about today? Cardiometabolic inferno. Why do we use the word cardio? Number one cause of death in the world, United States as well. About 1 million deaths a year. and metabolic because it all comes from your gut. I think in Boca next month, we're going to have a great doctor speak about the gut. And, my other lecture, we say it's the gut, stupid, right? Because you have 30 feet of intestines. So it makes sense, right? Your arm's only about this long. Your leg's only about this long. You have 30 feet in here. And that's where all the food goes. So it makes no surprise to me that the inflammation comes from your gut. And Inferno, because we're on fire. This is an actual slide from the California fires, unfortunately, in Los Angeles area. And you can see that, I think it was something like 1,400 homes at that time had gone up already in flames. I don't know what the count is now. About 30 people passed away. And we declared this a national emergency. The president went there. Both presidents actually went there. And unfortunately, this is happening in our society inside our bodies, but it's not a national emergency for whatever reason, right? COVID was a national emergency. This is not. And you can see all the fire trucks responding, right? Look, it looks like an emergency. There's a bridge here. They're all under the bridge. Everything's burning in the mountains. And, it's on the news, but this is kind of under the radar. So we have the job as the first line of defense that the patient gets to tell people this is an epidemic or an emergency, a national emergency, in my opinion. And hopefully, if RFK becomes sworn in, today was his second day, right? Not a coincidence that we're giving this lecture, that maybe some things will change and get fast-tracked. Common sense, as they say, is not so common, right? So I'm Christian. I like to start every lecture with a Bible verse. It says, the Lord will strike you with wasting disease, fever, inflammation, fiery heat, and drought, blight, and mildew. Sounds like Florida, right? But so I have to put that in context because that sounds bad, right? The context was David had made a sin, and he was saying this, that the Lord was going to punish him because he did some things with this girl that he was watching from across the way. And David was the one that wrote the Psalms. And anyway, the point of this is that we did a lot of bad things, which we're going to go into today, in the 80s, actually started in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and we're paying that price today with our kids and us and our society. And I have a patient who's a drill sergeant down in South Carolina, and he said 73% of all cadets cannot pass basic training. So they have to hire 3/4 more soldiers because 3/4 of them don't make it. Almost 3/4 of them don't make it. So they have to have bigger classes to weed out all the unhealthy ones. And these are like 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds. They can't do basic training because of this, right? So in my case, I consider that epidemic. So what's the answer? This is what happened, right? We listen to the food companies, which are connected to the drug companies in certain ways. And, we went from about 40 pounds to 140 pounds. We're up to 180 now. This slide's a little old. We're up to 180 pounds a year. And this, if you notice, there's not fat here. I don't have fat, right? Donuts, I guess you can say, is a kind of bad fat. But, we have candy, donuts, sodas, chips, not what you'd expect. You'd expect me to have, bacon and lard and butter, but it's really not the fat. It's the bad carbs, and specifically fructose, that's causing all this problem. Coca-Cola, if you don't know, is made with high fructose corn syrup. So that's what's going on. All right, so look at this, sad stuff. As of 2018, we're way past 2018, right? COVID happened. We're about, 5 years? 6 years away from this. And look at this, 1 out of 2 Americans with either pre or type 2 diabetes. So if you look to your right and you look to your left, one of those people either has diabetes or pre-diabetes in this room. Scary. Look at this, even worse. 40% of the population's obese, but almost 20%. 1 in 6 children. And I didn't put the infant obesity rate because I would have one of the men in black come in here and drag me out of here. But this is pretty scary. 18% of our children are now obese, and almost half of our population is obese, 40%. So almost 1 in 2. And then again, if you talk to the OBGYN practitioners in the room, they'll tell you that maternal diabetes and maternal obesity is epidemic. People gaining epidemic. And this has both maternal diabetes has a prediction of you getting regular diabetes after. And also, obese kids is a huge list of heart disease and problems that you're going to get in the future, including developmental issues and studying and things like that. And also, this 40% of patients, they have a 50% increase of cancer once you have diabetes, because you have all that sugar, and we know that sugar cells eat sugar 9 times, cancer cells eat sugar 9 times more than a regular cell, right? So imagine you have your blood sugar is 340, your risk of cancer is that much higher, right? One of the ways we treat cancer, by the way, is we put them on a no sugar diet, very strict diet, almost like a keto diet. So you see that this started in the 80s, and it actually started in the 70s, and it ramped up in the 80s and 90s when I went to medical school, basically attributed to sugar and fructose. We're going to talk about the differences in sugars. So I want you to concentrate more on fructose than glucose, right? We're going to talk about why. And then decrease activity levels, right? We have DoorDash and Amazon and computers, so we're not going outside and exercising regularly. We should, but we're not. And our kids aren't either. All right, let's get some definitions out of the way real quick. So metabolic syndrome, your triglycerides, if you notice, I use 135. Most labs use 150. It's actually 100 is the right number, but over 135, you're considered to be metabolic syndrome. Fasting glucose over 110. This can take 10 years, very bad, late sign. You shouldn't count on this one. Low HDL, right, and high triglycerides. That's how you diagnose pre-diabetes, which I don't call it metabolic syndrome anymore. I call it pre-diabetes because you're almost certain to get it if you don't change. This was the formula that they requested at my last lecture. We did it on cholesterol, so that's why I merged these two lectures together. This is a good one. It stands for homeostasis management of insulin resistance. You take, on any patient yourself, you take your fasting glucose level, you measure your fasting insulin level in the labs, you multiply them, divide by this constant of 405, and you're going to get a number. My number when I started this, when I met Jamie, was 4.3. Horrible. I've had patients 7, 8, 9, 10. Ideal is 0.5 to 1. I'm 0.5 now. But ideal level is about 1. And greater than 2, you're starting to get into trouble. So this is an easy test you can do when you get your patient's blood. I do it with a calculator. I have a little $5 calculator in every exam room, and I always do these calculations so the patient can see it with their own eyes. I plug in their glucose. If they don't have one, I do a finger stick. I plug in their insulin, and then I divide it by 405. You get a number. What is the 405? That's a constant just for the formula to work. It doesn't mean anything. It's the number in the formula. Yeah. That's the only one you got to memorize, right? The 405. Yeah. But it'll give you a number. Hopefully it'll be around 1. Above 2, you're in trouble. Like I said, I was 4.3. Way out of whack. Okay. Everybody kind of knows this in the room, but I'm going to mention it real quick. I'm going to waste about 3 seconds. Type 2 diabetes, which is about 96 to 98% of all diabetes. You have a fasting blood sugar above 125. I don't use 200. I use 140, 150. Postprandial greater than 140 or 150. The definition still says 200 for some reason. Hemoglobin A1C, which we're going to talk about, that's above 6.5. So normal is below 5.7. Above 6.5 is diabetes, which means you have a sugar level of 130. I gave you the formula here. So every point that you go up above 6. So 6 is this is the only thing you have to memorize about hemoglobin A1C. Hemoglobin A1C of 6 equals a blood sugar of 120. So even though we say 6 is normal, right? You want to be 6, it's already 120. So you already have insulin resistance. So even the normal should be adjusted, right? We just don't want to scare the crap out of everybody and say you have to be 5.4, and it would slide. That would make that other thing, we'd have 60, 70, 80% of people into diabetes or pre-diabetes. I encourage you guys to use the word pre-diabetes to your patients because I think metabolic syndrome is kind of a weird word that only doctors like. But if you say pre-diabetes and if you don't change anything, you're going to get type 2 diabetes. It's much more effective with the patients. I'm from New Jersey. I feel like you should be direct. Never lie to your patients. You can say you don't know, but never lie to a patient. And always try to be direct because that's the way you would want to be, right? Treated. So if you go from a hemoglobin of 6 to a hemoglobin of 7, if you watch those semaglutide commercials, they say, oh, we plan on getting your hemoglobin A1C below 7. Well, 7 is 150. It's not that great, right? You want to really get them here under 5.7. That's the real goal. And it's doable today. It is doable. I can tell you we do that in my office all the time. You just got to have a partnership with your patients. And by the way, the hemoglobin A1C is derived from sugar accumulation on the red blood cell, which can live anywhere from 90 to 120 days. So hemoglobin A1C of 6, what that means is you have 6% glucose around the red blood cell, okay? So it's a measure of inflammation. It's not a measure of blood sugar, okay? There's a correlation between inflammation and sugar and diabetes, and that's what we're talking about today. So today, the take-home message is it's inflammation, 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 all right? Nutritional Frontiers has excellent treatments of inflammation, excellent. And then we're going to talk about some lifestyle things you can do as well, all right? All right, so every doctor, when we take our boards, we have to memorize this, but I want you guys that talk to patients, just have this list in your head when you talk to a patient. So I want you to divide all the problems in type 2 diabetes into 2 categories: macro, big; micro, small. And if you notice the word vascular, vascular. So everything happens inside the artery, right? So damage to blood vessels, oxidation, literally rusting, right? Type 2 diabetes, you guys might not know this, but in doctor school, we learned that type 2 diabetes is equivalent to 1 heart attack. So if you're walking around with type 2 diabetes, you already had 1 heart attack. So you're already on secondary prevention, not primary prevention. So that's a big mistake they make with statins, because I don't like statins for primary prevention. But if you have diabetes, you're already secondary prevention. You're not primary prevention. So that's a mistake a lot of people don't know or say wrong. And I'm not here to defend or help anybody, but at least we got to speak intelligently, especially with some fine doctors in the room. We got to say things correctly. And we're going to go into that, and we're going to get into statins today. So cardiovascular disease, number 1 cause of death. Stroke. Peripheral vascular disease was when you have trouble with the arteries in your legs. You start getting pain when you walk, and then, as you know, you get limb loss and problems with your feet. Hypertension, which is not a disease by itself so much anymore. It's more a symptom of this inflammation. Dyslipidemia, hypertriglyceridemia, which is the definition, basically, of the beginning of diabetes. You have high triglycerides, low HDL. The blood sugar part takes 10 to 20 years. So when you see somebody with a blood sugar of 150, they've had this thing for 10 or 20 years. That's what you got to put in your brain. It didn't happen a year ago. They'll tell you, I was playing golf, I went to the doctor, they stuck my finger, 150. Must have played too much golf. No, you had that for 10 or 20 years. This is what we have to tell our patients, okay? So key areas to control: weight, which we're going to talk about, blood pressure, lipids, but this is all the same animal. These are just different symptoms of the diabetes or the inflammation. Gut inflammation, which we're going to talk about next time in Boca. Food sensitivities. So before, we used to tell patients, if you eat right, you drink water, you eat your fruits and veggies, you cut milk out or, bad things out, you cut out candy, you cut out sugar, you exercise, you sleep good, you're good. Not applicable anymore. Why? Because we have too many toxins. There's at least 1,000 toxins in our food every day that we eat, okay? And this is one of the reasons why Europe is a little bit better than we are. They have a more strict system. Hopefully we'll get that system here. We just eliminated red dye, right? Yeah, that was a miracle. But it is getting better, but it's super slow, snail's pace. So hopefully the new administration can speed it up. But you can see sleep here, stress. So if anybody asks you in your office, what's the number 1 cause of diabetes? It's not eating donuts, it's stress, right? So this is the killer right here. This is the difference since the 70s to now. So our life is 100 miles an hour. Everything's online. We have Amazon. We have things being delivered to your house. You can't shut your cell phone off, so doctors have to work 24 hours a day. My patients call me all the time. I have to shut the ringer off to give a lecture. And this is just the world that we live in. And we don't get a lot of vitamins. We don't go out in the sun. We don't have vitamin D. As Jamie mentioned, we don't have magnesium because it's not available. Think about this. If magnesium's not in the soil, how the hell are you going to get it eating spinach? You're not. 1 bowl of spinach of our grandparents equals, today, you have to eat 40 bowls of spinach to get the same amount of magnesium. Horrible. Right? It's like 0. Kidney function's another one. Again, that goes with all these toxins.
Liver. So diabetes, you normally have a clogged liver and a pancreas, and eventually the kidney deteriorates. Because remember, your heart and lungs work together, cardiopulmonary, and your liver. This is not that clear when you're in medical school, but when you get out and you practice, your liver and your kidneys work together. They're the detox centers. So if your liver goes down, which you have too much fat, which we're going to get into, I have a slide on that, then your kidneys kind of have to pick up the slack, and then eventually, you get older, your kidneys go down. It's just a matter of time. Microvascular, exactly what it sounds like, small vessel. So osmotic stress, toxicity like in the eyes. Think of the eyes, you get blurry vision, you get blindness. It used to be the number one cause of blindness, but actually macular degeneration is the number one cause of blindness in adults over 60 now. And that's another toxicity thing. We could talk about that. Renal failure and neuropathy, which is one of the most common and hardest things to treat in diabetics when they get damaged nerves and they have pain in their limbs, which the SPM helps. We use Neuropath E's, SPMs. Any of these things that you guys need help with in practice, you guys are also always welcome to give me a call, ask me how I treat my patients. So I have a patient with this, I'm not having success, I'm having trouble. I've been doing this since about 2011, and I've been a doctor since 1996. So I switched over my practice to functional medicine around 2011 because I realized that my treatments didn't work and the patients were getting worse. Even though they were on a statin, they were still having heart attacks, which we're going to talk about today. All right, so I like The Simpsons. They predicted Donald Trump was going to be president. So what I want you to stop saying, instead of saying sugar, it's not wrong to say that because table sugar is half fructose, half glucose. Glucose is used by every cell in your body. There's no receptor for it in the liver. It goes right through the liver, goes right to your cells. Fructose is used by 0 cells in your body, none of them. It's a toxin. It's metabolized like whiskey in your liver. So if you give fruit juice to kids, you're basically giving them whiskey or alcohol, right? And it's a really bad poison. So this is what we want. And what do we put in all our fruit juices and all our sodas? High fructose corn syrup. It says it right there, high fructose corn syrup. Doesn't say low fructose corn syrup, right? So yeah. And that's what we feed our chickens and our cows. We feed them cornmeal and stuff like that, right? So we have to change a lot of things, how we treat animals, how we raise plants, how we farm. And this is the F word I want you to leave. Say, Dr. Silva said some F words, but it was the word fructose. It wasn't the one they say in New Jersey, okay? So look at this, tooth decay. I don't think that's known. I don't think there's a correlation. Soda they say, but they don't say fructose, right? So tooth decay. By the way, when you have gum disease, that's a risk factor for cardiovascular and metabolic disease. That's a really bad sign of inflammation. Leaky gut, which we're going to talk about next week in more detail. Fatty liver. Did you know that for your liver to be considered fatty liver, it only has to be 5% fat extra? I thought it was like 50%. 5% fat in your liver, fatty liver. And I have a slide on that. When we get down there, I'm going to show you why that happens. Type 2 diabetes. Wrong button. Type 2 diabetes, right? Obesity, kidney failure, gout. And I'm going to show you why. The uric acid production in the liver, it's not really from diet. Just like cholesterol is only about 10 or 15% from diet. So gout turns out to be not caused by that. It's caused by sugar. Who knew? Erectile dysfunction. Every single day in my office in Florida, I have a patient coming in with complaints of erectile dysfunction. Every single day. Quality of life issue, but also it's the opposite, right? If things aren't working good down here, they're probably not working good over here. So you got to use it as a reverse thing. We all know that if your heart's bad, down here is going to be bad. But what about if down here is bad? That means your heart's probably bad, right? We need to work on that. So we need to do some testing in that area. Hypertension, which is from uric acid as well, and nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is a really cool thing. It's the only nutrient that's a gas. Isn't that cool? It's a gas. So nitric oxide is made in your nasal pharynx, and it goes through all your arteries. But uric acid actually kills it. I'll show you in my slide when we get there. And it causes one of the causes of hypertension and vasoconstriction. They've done studies on McDonald's hash browns. And they did a study where people ate something and the other people ate the McDonald's hash browns. And they measured the vasoconstriction in the arteries from the bad fats and the chemicals in the hash browns. Deep frying, which we're going to get into that. Heart disease, depression. How many people see depression in their practice? Super common, right? And Alzheimer's, which they call type 3 diabetes in a lot of places. So, all right. This is one of the slides I was talking about. Look at this. Glucose, you eat it, right? Sugar. This is sucrose, I guess, because it's glucose and fructose. Goes through your system. Glucose, right out, right? Right here. And goes out to your cells. Not saying it's the healthiest thing on the planet, but your body needs glucose. Did you know that glucose is an electrolyte? Right? We forget that. We say magnesium, potassium. Glucose is an electrolyte. You need it for energy. Your brain, your body, your muscles need glucose. So glucose is not an F word, thank God. It's a G word, right? The F word is fructose, and you see it has a separate, a GLUT8 receptor in the liver. And look at this, it looks like a ping pong, right? The fructose goes in, look at this, ding, 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 ding. Makes triglycerides, goes out in the fat cells, and you'll see in the next slide, the fat cells are going to show a leptin production back to get you hungrier and eating more. And then this one here shows more fructose metabolism. And you'll see there's acetyl-CoA that goes on, malonyl-CoA, and this all helps into getting the triglyceride molecules. That's why when you have diabetes, your triglycerides go up. And this causes all kinds of damage, and this is what causes insulin sensitivity resistance, to sensitivity to go down, resistance to go up. And then look at this. One of the byproducts, you're increasing uric acid from fructose, right? And vasoconstriction right there. So imagine this guy has heart disease, he's got 2 stents, and he's having Coca-Cola every night, 1 liter of Coca-Cola every night, and he's getting vasoconstriction. His doctor's not asking about his Coca-Cola consumption, right? And what can we do here? We can do SPM, we can do something with L-arginine to like Circucor, to vasodilate this, and we can do things to increase nitric oxide production. By the way, pregnant women have the highest amount of nitric oxide in their arteries. It's like 5,000 or something like that. It's the highest. That's why medical school, when we suck, they send us to the OBGYN to practice doing IVs and drawing blood, because their blood vessels are literally this big, and they're all bloated, and they can't punch you, right? And then once you graduate from OBGYN, they put you to take blood in the ER, yeah. They're like, have you been to OBGYN? Go see the pregnant women. And that's why they have the biggest, most bloated veins. And you see here, lipogenesis. So you're making the problem here, right? You're increasing the oxidized LDL in this case, and the liver is getting to be a fatty liver. So very important. And the enzymes here are similar to the enzymes that we use to metabolize alcohol, like alcohol dehydrogenase. Very similar equivalent enzymes in here. And you could do a fructosamine level in the labs. One day we're going to do a lecture just about labs, how to work up patients and which labs to order. But you can order a fructosamine level and check their fructosamine. All right, this is the last medical slide, I promise. I just put this in here to show you this. Once you get the triglyceride or the lipid, this is all fat in here. Once you get the triglyceride, it's going to send a message of feedback back to the brain and cause leptin resistance. We talk about insulin resistance, but not about leptin resistance, and it's going to increase your food intake and decrease satiety. That's why when you eat good fats, one of the benefits of good fats, it makes you feel full, so you don't crave carbs and eat all those crappy carbohydrates that we crave all the time. So, the leptin is really important, and one of the things that causes that to happen and insulin resistance is the fructose intake. So it goes through the liver, and you see the insulin resistance going to the pancreas. So then they say your insulin doesn't work properly, your muscles don't work properly. And the name of the game in all this, you're going to remember, when you go home, think of my first slide with the fire, inflammation. Cortisol goes up, triglycerides go up, visceral fat goes up, which is a lethal thing in your body. Inflammation goes up. So one of the things that we do for visceral fat, besides using medications and supplements, we can do intermittent fasting, right? Intermittent fasting is very good at lowering visceral fat specifically. All these peptides that people are complaining about, the semaglutide, they target visceral fat as well. So not a bad thing to start in patients that are very overweight. I wouldn't use it in somebody that wants to go to a wedding on Saturday and wants to lose 10 pounds. So there's a lot of abuse of the medications as well. But in the right patient, it could be a lifesaver, along with what we're going to talk about today, and a good diet. It's not a, like you do it in the dark thing. Just do semaglutide or Mounjaro, tirzepatide. But you got to do it with a whole plan, which is what we do here. So you prevent muscle wasting. They're drinking water. So all the patients that we had bad outcomes from getting Mounjaro, then they end up in our office, they didn't drink water. That's the number one problem with tirzepatide. So we don't give it to anybody who's dehydrated, who doesn't drink water. That's a requirement. So a lot of elderly people, you have to be careful. They're on it, they're getting it for some reason, and they're not drinking water, and they're ended up in the ER. So really, it's a dehydration problem, right? All right, so look at this. So you're going to tell me, Dr. Silva, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse practitioner. I don't need vitamins, right? I can just do, put them on some good meds, put them on a diet, have them drink water. I don't need meds. Well, you'd be wrong. The number one med that you need in diabetes is D3 and K2. We always do D3 and K2 together because the K2 helps the D3 go to where it has to go. And K2 by itself is really good for the mitochondria. And these people have rapid aging. They have mitochondrial damage. I can do a whole 1-hour lecture just on mitochondria, right? And D3 is the most important vitamin for diabetes, in my opinion. There's some honorable mentions. The B vitamins, magnesium, I would put as second most important. By the way, you need vitamin D3, magnesium, B3 to make testosterone. So all these people come into your office saying their testosterone's low. This is why. Okay? So if you put them on some, where's the beef stuff? Over there. You put them on some protein. You give them some vitamin D. You give them some magnesium. You give them some B complex, specifically B3. You can actually improve their testosterone levels. Because those are precursors to making testosterone. We give them pregnenolone as well. And if they're on cholesterol medication, it blocks the production of sex hormones. So you got to be careful with that, okay? But look at this. Glutathione, where's my glutathione? The acai of the body, number one detox agent of the liver. So they need that. Alpha lipoic acid is a natural form of metformin. Improves muscle sensitivity to insulin. So you need that, the skeletal muscle. Zinc, what doesn't it do? But in this case, it helps with the pancreatic beta cells, helps regenerate them. Interesting thing is there's studies on magnesium that actually help in diabetic foot ulcers, healing of diabetic foot. And we've seen that in my office. I have a picture on my phone if you guys are interested in a diabetic foot ulcer that we're healing. The guy was in New Jersey. It was one of my friends from high school. They chopped his big toe off, came down. Now, if you know, you need your big toe to walk, to push off. So he lost his big toe. So now he's kind of walking with his other toes, and he developed 2 ulcers, which we're treating in my office, and his like 80% better. They would have probably chopped the rest of his foot off if he stayed in New Jersey in that place. Vitamin C, a lot of people don't notice, lowers your hemoglobin A1C because vitamin C is one of the most potent antioxidants, right? So vitamin C, very important in diabetics to get their hemoglobin A1C under control, especially postprandial sugars. L-carnitine, right? Really good for the heart, we know that, but also diabetic neuropathy. So this is a bugger. This is a real pain in the butt. Whoever treats patients with diabetes knows this, right? The patient's feet are numb, they're hurting, they can't walk, they fall down. So glutamine is basically a poor man's GLP-1 already, and it's a very common amino acid, and it helps regulate insulin secretion. So you see all these things. By the way, Jamie, my favorite formula with DMG is the one with the CoQ10 in it. Yeah. Because you get DMG and CoQ10, right? So CoQ10, for those of you that don't know, you lose it in your 40s. In your 50s, you have about 50% or less CoQ10 in your body. This is one of the main things that protects your mitochondria from getting old, right? It helps regenerate your mitochondria. So without this is why you have rapid aging in diabetes and rapid decline in health function. And it protects your kidneys as well, which is a very common problem in diabetes. So as you can see, the person that says you do not need vitamins to treat diabetes is really wrong. And we have all the proof in my office. If you guys need any case studies, we're going to do some tonight, or you need any backup on this in terms of talking to patients, we can help you with that. We have an extensive history with this stuff. Like I said, I've been doing this since 2011. All right, let's move over. What? Yeah. Everybody here will get a copy of this. This is all common knowledge. There's nothing, but it's actually not common, right? It's common, like you can find it everywhere, but nobody knows this stuff, right? So look at this, cholesterol. This should be an F word, right? They wanted this to be an F word. You say cholesterol, everybody's like, oh, ay vey. Well, cholesterol is actually good. Turns out all your cell walls are made of them, right? 20% of your cell wall is made of cholesterol. Cholesterol is needed for a lot of functions in your body, which we're going to go over real quick. But look at this. Your body's 70 to 80% water, depending what area of the body. Like your muscles are more like 80%. Your cardiovascular is more like 72%. So, and our bodies are made of proteins, right? Our skin, our muscles, our organs, our arteries, they're all made of proteins. So how do we transport fat in a water protein environment and regulate our cell membranes? Because we have to have things going in and out of the cell. So how do we do that? Well, God invented cholesterol as a transport mechanism to bring fat, which is a really good energy source, right? Fat is not the problem either. We've given fat a bad word. All these guys from Harvard got together with the food companies and they decided we should be on a high carb, low fat diet. It turns out it should be the opposite. In fact, I didn't mention this before, but fat barely triggers an insulin response. So if you have a diabetic that comes in and they have a really bad hemoglobin A1C, they're really poorly controlled, you actually want them on a good high-fat diet, right? Maybe some MCT oil, some good fats, avocados, because that does not trigger insulin. Protein is next. Protein mildly triggers insulin. Carbs are the worst. So you want them to be low on sugary carbs. Of course, vegetables don't count and fruits because they have, but fruit juices are a no-no, right? Especially the fructose ones. We know that's the F word now, not cholesterol. So look at this. Your brain is you. Like you are your brain and your neurons. That's what makes you you. So your brain is about 60% fat, and 30% of all, 25 to 30% of all the cholesterol in your body is in your brain. Why would God park a third of the cholesterol, if it's such a bad thing, in your brain? Makes no sense, right? Common sense tells you that that's wrong. All right, here we go. Here's the proof. 1970s, everybody watched the Brady Bunch. That's my age, right? We ate our chocolate cereal. Where's in front of the TV watching the Brady Bunch. And then look at the 90s. This is only the 90s. Joanne, and you have, obesity kicking in and sedentary. Look where they're sitting, on a couch. If you get The Simpsons, it's the exact same picture. They copied The Simpsons, these people. If you look at The Simpsons, exact same picture, but cartoon on a couch. So 20% of our mammalian cell walls are made of cholesterol, the bilipid, phospholipid membrane, right? And look at this. Cholesterol is needed for sex hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, which makes all these. Adrenal hormones, cortisol, aldosterone, calcitrol, which regulates bones, and vitamin D. And the other thing is, you cannot absorb vitamin D from the sun if you don't have cholesterol. You need cholesterol to convert the sun's energy to make vitamin D. And then you also need a liver, because the vitamin D goes to the liver, gets cleaved, right? And becomes the 25 version. And that's the active form of vitamin D. So if your liver's clogged and you have cholesterol not on board, you're screwed because you can't make vitamin D. And I just told you that's the most important one in diabetes or metabolic syndrome, right? You see how we're getting in trouble? How we're turning into the Roseannes of life? All right. So the culprit, the real bad word now is not cholesterol. It's LDL, low density lipid, right? Which is the one that gets stuck out in your arteries. The HDL, or the high density lipid, is the tow truck that brings the cholesterol back to the liver. And statins, what they do is they increase the LDL receptors on your liver so that your liver can pick up more LDL and bring it into the liver faster. The problem is that's big, fluffy, buoyant LDL, not oxidized LDL. So the oxidized LDL is like a golf ball. The big, buoyant LDL is a beach ball. So the receptor can pick up the beach ball. It can't really pick up the golf ball that easily. And that's where statins have trouble. They do have an anti-inflammatory effect, which is good. That's what we're going to talk about. And that's basically how they work in the long run. So how does oxidized LDL even happen? How does it work? How does it damage us? Well, there's these things called advanced glycation end products, which are proteins and fats that get damaged when the sugars react with them, like frying foods, for example, and non-enzymatic, so non-natural process. These are called AGEs, and these are linked to, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, heart disease, and AGE are common in blood vessels of people with diabetes, and it's a fast track to hardening of the arteries or arteriosclerosis. The body's unable to use these damaged fats. It's basically a glucose thing on top of the cell that doesn't let the fat function and the protein function properly. So these are like badly labeled packages that cannot be delivered. So if you bungle up, I don't know if you guys ever mailed anything on Amazon, you put duct tape over the label or tape over the label. They mail it back and say, they couldn't read it, it doesn't scan. And basically it's going to increase your oxidized LDL. We can measure that now at Quest. There's a lab, you can actually order oxidized LDL so you know what's going on. And it lowers your HDL. Remember what I told you? Increased triglycerides, low HDL is the beginning of diabetes, right? And when you have increase in LDL, you normally, before this, you're going to have an increase in triglycerides. So that's what's going to make the LDL oxidize. And they get stored as, guess what? Visceral fat. So you get that big belly around the waistline, or women get it lower down. So these are an indication, if you're getting visceral fat deposits, that you're having these oxidized LDLs running around. And cholesterol by itself does not cause heart disease. They're an innocent bystander. So we gotta set the record straight and call things the way they are. And of course, you're gonna get obesity, which is what happened to our population. In my case, I say that it's a national emergency. All right, so here's the structure of cholesterol. I took out the other slide that had all the studies in it, but I'm just going to go over this real quick. The oxycholesterol or the epoxy cholesterol sounds like something you buy in Home Depot. This is from frying, right? And it's implicated in the oxidizing of cholesterol and arteriosclerosis. Most heart attacks, when I did my studies in residency, were happening with normal total cholesterol levels. Now they're not. Now they've gone up. You had Dr. Atkins and Dr. Dean Ornish on both opposite ends, one telling you to eat a high-fat diet and the other one telling you to eat a high-vegetable diet. Both of them, what they had in common was they cut out sugary carbs. This is kind of interesting. In 1950s, Dr. Paul White was the cardiologist, the doctor. I don't know if you know this, but when you become president, you get a doctor assigned to you to keep an eye on you. And this was President Eisenhower's cardiologist in 1955. He graduated from medical school in 1921, and he only saw his first heart attack in 1928. Look at that, 7 years. I think it took me 7 minutes in medical school to see my first heart attack. I wasn't even a full-fledged medical student yet. I walked into the ER, and code blue was flying, and patients were, respirators, and they were defibrillating somebody. And that's amazing that it took him 7 years. And what he said in his experience was that the margarine and the corn oils, the seed oils, were to blame. And when they started coming, remember, that's when the Crisco became popular, and margarine and stuff. And look at this, a normal omega-3, which is the good fats, and you still need omega-6s, but they're not as good as the omega-3s. But the ratio is what is important, like in the SPM and the omega-3. And look at this. A normal one is 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 is acceptable, right? So 2 times omega-6 to omega-3. In our society, we're 10-to-20 or 30-to-1. Omega-6 over omega-3. So this thing is totally screwed up, and this leads to pathology. Anything over 1-to-6 is going to give you pathology. We're up to 30. Then, of course, you had penned animals, corn-fed, like I said, decreased omega-3, increased omega-6s and all these byproducts, increased cancer risk, by the way, which that's a whole other lecture by itself, arrhythmias, and then behavior and emotional problems, which we see in kids these days at alarming rates. All right, this is for Dr. Len. I promised him I'd give him this slide. So how do statins actually work? I don't think a lot of doctors know this stuff like this. Something worth reviewing. We kind of learn about it in medical school, but we just know that you give them a statin, it lowers their LDL, and they're going to be good. Well, it turns out that it actually is pretty good. They decrease, depending on the type of statin and the dose, you can get about a 40% reduction in the LDL. But remember, this increases the receptors, and it's really only effective against the healthy, fluffy LDL. It's not that great against the oxidized LDL. And this is the whole potato right here. I outlined the most important things in blue. The anti-inflammatory effect, it's called nuclear factor kappa beta, or kappa B, and this decreases your immune system function. It's anti-inflammatory, but not necessarily in a great way. It lowers your adhesions, your macrophages, your smooth muscle mass. So all these things that cause plaques, the platelet aggregation, it decreases thrombin formation, which is the clot. It's another word for clot. And reduces your cardiovascular reduction across the board. Interestingly, this works so good that they use statins in organ transplant to suppress the immune system to make patients not reject their kidneys and their. So that's kind of interesting, right? It works so good, that it works so well that they actually use it for kidney and transplant patients. But it decreases your CoQ10 big time. So as we know, it blocks the malonic acid, which is going to decrease your CoQ10. By age 50, you lose it anyway, so over 50 is more dangerous for myalgias and things like that. Most common foods are organ meats. Did you know that the alpha wolf, when he hunts and they kill a prey, the alpha wolf will eat the organs first. Nobody can touch it. So the alpha wolf goes, he'll eat all the organ meat, and then whatever's left over, the other wolves can eat the organ meat that's left over and the muscles. The alpha wolf never eats the muscles, the steaks, goes after the organ meat. In our country, we kind of don't eat organ meats like chicken hearts and things like that, but it's actually really good for you and really high in CoQ10, which I said helps repair mitochondrial function. So the side effects of this, you get weakness, and muscle pains. Really problematic in CHF patients because their hearts get weak, and mitochondrial damage as well. The dolicol is another function, and this one has to do with the endoplasmic reticulum in the cell that does DNA repair, can cause rapid aging, and this is the part of the statin that can cause psychological effects that you've heard of, which is aggression, addiction, and hostility. So basically, if somebody has these problems, like maybe they have traumatic brain injury or some other psychiatric issues, you have to be careful with high-dose statins. The dose, it is dose-dependent, so these you can use a weaker statin. You know, we use cholesterol red, which is really good. I've never had a problem with it. And it has a weak version of the statin in there, and that's what we use. And we use it in high doses. I've never had an issue with it. But just know that these are side effects that not only can block your body's ability to make hormones, but can give you, psychological, aggression, addiction, hostility, can cause myalgias, a lot of times real serious, and also anti-inflammatory effects to the point where you're immunocompromised.
Doc, what dose do you use on the cholesterol red?
So we usually do, on somebody that comes in, they're usually red hot, we do 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. So 4 a day. But you can start 1 and 1 if you want to be careful and then titrate up. But we usually use a dosage of 2 and 2. So 2 capsules in the morning with breakfast, 2 in the afternoon. And we tell them to take it with food. And we usually have no issues with that. I take it myself. That's a good question. All right, so here's another one. This is what Dr. Len and I were talking about. It has a decrease in glial cell production because, as you know, the myelin, which is the covering of all the nerves in the body, is 40% cholesterol. Your brain is 60% cholesterol, right? So you can get things like dementia. The thing in the media, in the journals, it's called total global amnesia. There's a famous book that I read by one of the astronauts who happens to be a physician, and he had this problem. And he's an astronaut. The astronaut, it's like the top 0.1% of the population. Have you ever heard with the screening they have to go through to be an astronaut? You got to be super healthy. And he had this. His cardiologist put him on a primary prevention, which is a mistake in my opinion. And he got amnesia, so he got off it. Short-term memory problems and even ALS-type symptoms. Like I said, it can cause decreased myelin production and protection. So decreased synapses and neurotransmitter function. So patients like MS and Parkinson's, they actually do worse on statins. I would say that's a relative contraindication to my patients. And then, of course, this is the newer stuff that just came out. I don't know if you guys have heard this stuff, but I've read as high as 20%, but the literature, which is what I researched, 8 to 10% increase in diabetes can happen after high-dose treatments with the cardiologists are using these days, which you don't need, by the way, because 80% of the anti-inflammatory effect, 75 to 80% happens at the lowest dose. So if you give somebody a really low dose, like they have stents, you can get 75 to 80% of the anti-inflammatory effect, which is what you want out of statins. So kind of alarming, right? What we're talking about, this can actually cause diabetes type 2. And then cancer risk, there was a famous proper study, and in Japanese studies, they found that these are new to come out. And you know, there's different studies now coming out that there's up to a 20% correlation between taking statins and getting like lung, colorectal, and ovarian cancer. Of course, this would be long-term, not short-term, in the high doses. So these are some things that you want to know about. Your patients may ask you about this stuff. It's good that you can tell them this. I haven't seen too much of this in my practice, to be honest with you, but technically it's there. It's in the literature. We should know about it. We're the experts, right? So we have to know this stuff. So what are some alternatives? Let's say you don't want to use a statin. The patient's mild. It's primary prevention. Well, vitamin E, believe it or not, we have an excellent vitamin E. It's not one of our featured products here, but it's in a lot of our products, and we have a standalone vitamin E. I know because I buy it. It has a statin-like effect. It'll lower LDL cholesterol all by itself. Who knew? Alpha-lipoic acid, ALA, is anti-inflammatory. I told you it's like a poor man's, actually rich man's metformin, because it doesn't have all the side effects that metformin has. So alpha-lipoic acid, for example, glucolyze, right, which is our number one. And I also do that 2 tablets twice a day. And I go up to 2 tablets 3 times a day in some patients. So I have patients taking 6 tablets a day, doing fine. No myalgias, no issues, no problems with the alpha-lipoic acid. Magnesium, to me, is magnesium should be in every product. So there shouldn't be any patients, I would say, out of 1,000 patients, maybe 1 patient will go through your office and doesn't need vitamin D or magnesium. 1 out of I think it's even higher than that. It's so rare when we see somebody on magnesium. And I'll tell you one thing. We have so many patients. It's the one thing that I'll tell Jamie, it's the one thing we cannot keep in stock is magnesium and vitamin D3. And our patients went through COVID. We had 0 intubations and 0 deaths. 2,600 patients I treated. And it's because of this. And zinc, right? And some other things. We even made kits, right? We had kits made up. Yes. And these are decreased cytokines, which is what people died of in COVID. Not really the infection, but the cytokine storm that came after. And then again, cholesterol red, you had the red yeast extract, which is like a Mevacor product. Again, you still get the anti-inflammatory effects of the statin. It's a natural version. Can cause mild myalgias at high doses. I haven't seen it yet, you know. But mainly it's because we supplement everybody with CoQ10 anyway, so we don't get any fatigue or myalgias on the CoQ10. Definitely recommend any of your patients on a statin, you put them on CoQ10 and magnesium as well. CoQ10 is the number 1 antioxidant for the mitochondria. Remember, the mitochondria gets exposed directly to oxygen. So oxygen is really strong and can damage the mitochondria. You know, we think of oxygen as a good thing, but in high doses, in concentrated forms, it can damage the mitochondria. And CoQ10 is one of the things, MCT oil, coconut oil, which is in some of our products, and olive oil, believe it or not, phytonutrients are really good at rehabilitating the mitochondria. And when you have the mitochondria working efficiently, you also lose weight. So your metabolism actually goes up. It's weird, right? Because it's on a cellular level, subcellular level. So you could actually give them something to lose weight on a subcellular level. It's not even an organ, or it's the part of a cell. Kind of cool, right? And then, of course, vitamin C, as I told you, lowers hemoglobin A1C, and vitamin E together, super antioxidants against free radicals. Oh, I forgot one thing. Hold on. Let's go back to that one. So what you'll read in the literature is about I don't read 29% so much anymore, but about a 14% reduction in stroke and heart attack. And this is a relative risk reduction that they concocted. But if you look at absolute risk, so if a patient asks you, Doc, if I take a statin, what's the real number that I'm not going to die of a heart attack or have a heart attack? So die of a heart attack, 0.4%. MI or heart attack, 0.8%. And stroke's actually a little better, 1.3%. Imagine Viagra came out and the rate of having an erection of taking a $14 pill was 0.4%. Nobody would buy it, right? And these are actually the real numbers. Now, this is in primary. I'm not talking about people with stents and had heart attacks already, secondary prevention. There are benefits there. We're talking about somebody comes off the street, you diagnose them with chronic disease, and you put them on it to prevent these things. Not that great, okay? Secondary prevention is not included in that. Primary prevention. All right. What are some other things that we need to look at? So remember when I told you about the AGE? This is a genetic form of that. This is called the apoprotein B100. The normal level is about 80 or under 100. This is about 37% genetic. And remember, we have something called epigenetics. That's another thing we could talk about one day, where your diet and the chemicals you put in your body can change your genetic. Epi means on top, like epidermis, can change your genes. So you might not have a history of diabetes. You might not have a history of heart attacks, but you can make one. And then that'll pass down to your kids. So you have to be really careful about epigenetics and what we're putting in our body. And so this one is about 37% genetic. And what it does is there's glucose molecules on top of the LDL, and it makes the LDL not open and close, so it cannot deliver the fat to the cells. So you end up getting all these LDLs floating around your body, and they can't empty out, which can cause heart disease. And by the way, only dense LDL can go into the intima of the cracks in the cell wall, in the intima and inner lining of the arteries, and get stuck there. The large, fluffy, buoyant LDL is no problem. That's why you have to be careful when you say LDL is bad. It's not really the bad cholesterol. Not all forms of it, right? And we can measure oxidized LDL. So omega-3s, so omega 3, 3D, and my favorite product is SPM and Nutriglutide. Those are the two best ones, and we're going to get into that. Everybody should be on them, in my opinion. If you live here, it's really a good protection mechanism. Monounsaturated fats, and of course you want to lower sugar and trans fats. But look at this, omega-3 and its great anti-inflammatory effects. And of course, speaking with Dr. Len about his new formula, all Americans are low in fiber. Like, we don't eat enough fiber. The second one is homocysteine. This was a Harvard scientist that discovered this, so they cannot metabolize. And I also recommend all your patients that once you get going, you guys do genetic testing for methylation, right? There's 4 methylation tests that we can go over. And you're going to see who can't metabolize, B12 and folic acid, which is B9. And this causes miscarriages and heart attacks in people 8, 9 years old. So the Harvard scientists people were having heart attacks at 8, 9 years old when they had this genetic issue. You can measure this, easy measured in the blood. Quest, LabCorp has this test. You're going to have trouble in the metabolism. Of course, alcohol abuse, PPIs, which are abused, thyroid conditions, and the MTHFR mutation. That's the one I was talking about. But there's 3 other ones besides that one. In my family, we have this culprit. This is a really bad one. This is about 90% genetic, Lp(a), and this causes your body to make damaged LDL particles to begin with. So your body makes damaged LDL particles and accelerates cardiovascular disease and atherogenesis, thrombus formation. The best is niacin and CoQ10, and even statins can help increase the Lp(a) levels, so you got to be careful. Statins are good for lowering CoQ10, but I find that the omega-3s work better. The CRP levels. Statins are claimed, I've never seen it really help that much, but the omega-3s and the CoQ10s and things work much better. We use a lot of niacin in my practice. Niacin works really good. They have an excellent form. I haven't had too many problems with flushing in patients. I take it. I don't have any problems. And we live in Florida, right? We should be the most flushers on the planet. It's 95 degrees every day, except today. So niacin and CoQ10. So I always use the Super B Complete. because you need so many B vitamins, like B5, which is pathogenic acid, that lowers triglycerides level like tremendously. So if you put your patients on a good amount of B5 and B6 and B9 and B3, which is, you're going to kill a whole bunch of birds with one stone. The only thing you got to tell them is the B complex vitamins, they have like a garlicky taste to it, you know. I like garlic, I'm Italian, so no problem for me. All right, let's look at some case studies now and apply what we learned. 38-year-old Brazilian female. In my office, we get a lot of Brazilians and Italians and New Yorkers. You tend to attract patients like you. She was complaining of low libido, hair loss, loss of sex drive, weight gain. This is a common thing. I mean, you see this like every single day in my office. This is like a patient type A, you know, we get them every day. And of course, physical exam was normal. She appeared stressed out, tired, had some wrinkles around the eyes. 215 pounds, 5'7", so she's heavier than me, female, so she's overweight. Heart rate's a little high. Blood pressure's borderline. Her sugar was 110. Again, don't hang your hat on that, right? Look at her hemoglobin A1C, 6.2. So we said that a hemoglobin A1C of 6 is already 120. Her insulin level's elevated. I like insulin levels under 5. Under 10 is considered okay. I like them under 5. And her OMIR, look at this. So this doesn't look too bad, right? It's like, you can put them on a little diet and exercise, right? Cut the potato chips out. Look at this, home IR score of 6.8. And LDL is 180, which is high, but the HDL is really low for a female, should be 55. Look at the triglycerides. So pre-diabetes right here, right? Forget metabolic syndrome. Pre-diabetes. And VLDL is another measure of triglyceride level. Her thyroid is a little screwed up, so we got to work on the thyroid. So thyroid complete. Her cortisol levels, not that bad yet. Magnesium's low. Remember, don't rely too much on serum magnesium. We use intracellular magnesium. This was from her labs, from her insurance company. And she's a D3, look at that. Horrible, right? 32. We like it 80 to 125. Testosterone 0. Estrogen's low for a female. Progesterone 0. No wonder this poor thing's stressed out. So diagnosis, prediabetes, stress, low motivation, lack of exercise, nutritional deficiencies. There's supposed to be a part 2 to that one. Hold on, where'd that go? Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get to the vitamins. Supposed to be a part 2 there. All right, another case. 44. I want to quiz you guys when we get to the vitamins on that. It was supposed to be another page where we can quiz you, but when we get down to the vitamins, then I'll quiz you. 44-year-old African-American male with family history of diabetes, had erectile dysfunction, weight gain, fatigue, frequent urination, thirst, blurry vision. Sounds like diabetes, right? Loss of libido, sex drive, sleeps a lot. Belly has increased with weight gain. Ex-football player, so the guy had some muscles. Active, resistance weight training. No chest pain or shortness of breath, but doesn't sleep well, tosses and turns. Leg pain at night in the lower legs. Also wakes up in the middle of the night. So this is bad, right? Because he's not sleeping, so he's not repairing himself at night. And it's showing you that he's having some inflammation, right? The leg pain, not sleeping good. He's having ED, which is the small vessel disease. We could put that in the small vessel disease category with eyes. And then over here, look at his blood pressure, 160 over 100. So he's got fructose pumping out that uric acid and the shutting down his nitric oxide. Remember, when you take a hose and you put your finger over the hose, the water pressure is going to come out higher. So anything that clamps your artery is going to make your blood pressure go up. So it's kind of like a stress reaction as well, and it's more like the cardiovascular system is unwell and inflamed as opposed to just having hypertension by itself, you know. So anybody with high blood pressure, you kind of have to check their cardiovascular system. Like Dr. Len said, one of the first tests that I would do is high sensitivity CRP, you know, and we have really good imaging studies that we can look at your arteries without poking anything inside you and see how your arteries are doing and measuring inflammation and cracks in the artery. He looks his age, but is obese, right? So not as stressed as the other lady. And his pulse ox is 98% on room air, so he's not having any respiratory issues, but at night he's having cortisol issues probably, and from the obesity he's not sleeping good. He's got that organ, right, that visceral fat going on, which kills you. if you let it go unchecked. Here's some of his labs. Glucose was 152, so that's about a 7, as we learned, right? So now you know, if you do 6 as 120, just keep adding 30s until you, so a 150 would be hemoglobin A1C of 7. See how easy it is? If somebody has a hemoglobin A1C of 10 and 6 is 120, you just add 4 times 30 or 120, and then you're going to get their sugar levels. It'll be 240, right? And we see a lot of 10s. We see a lot of those. Those are common coming in. Insulin levels 30. I've seen this 150, 250. Look at this score. I told you 1 to 1.5. Look at 13.8. So this guy's like ready to cash it in. Vitamin D level. Our lowest in our office was 3. But this is pretty bad, 14. LDL is high. HDL super low, right? For males, it should be 50. Triglyceride level, normal, I told you, is below 100. And magnesium, look at this magnesium. So he has no magnesium, low vitamin C, cortisol's through the roof, it's high. Thyroid is high, which is an inflammatory reaction, right? Testosterone's super low. He has a female testosterone almost. And estrogen has one of the reasons why he may have obesity or gynecomastia going on, things like that. So assessment and plan on this one, type 2 diabetes, obesity, nutritional deficiency. We're going to put him on a low-carb, high-fat diet with good fats like avocados and olive oil. He's going to start walking because he can't do much more than that, 30 minutes every day. We did an ultrasound of his arterial and venous system. It was negative, thank God. And nutritional treatment to be discussed in the next section when we get to those. But basically a low-carb diet. So I don't put everybody on keto diets. They're really hard to maintain. But you can do a low-carb diet. A keto diet is 4 to 20 carbs a day. So I do low-carb diets, 100 to 150 carbs a day. We try to use mostly veggies and fruits and good quality, like avocados, for example. And remember, tomatoes are fruits, so that's always, and strawberries, berries are really good for you. Of course, you're not going to have them eat at midnight, but you can have them do berries. And as long as they're not juice, they can juice it, but they don't buy the juice in the store. And they keep the fiber when they juice. And then we did intermittent fasting, and we also started him on tirzepatide injection weekly for the diabetes. And we put him on the supplements, which we're going to go over. The supplements are really important because they correct all the metabolic issues to let the other things work. And also remember what I told you, you have to drink water. We do IVs in our office as well. We find them to be very effective in these patients. Number 3, 55-year-old non-smoker, Hispanic male. Look at this, total cholesterol, 240, right? I told you total cholesterol doesn't really have anything to do with heart disease, LDL. This was done in the Framingham study in the 1970s. Dr. Castelli, who I had the pleasure of meeting, they found out that the total cholesterol and the LDL were not the culprits. It was the triglycerides and the HDL. Not surprised now after our lecture, right? And unfortunately, they didn't have a drug for that. So they pushed total cholesterol and LDL because we have a drug for that can work. But this is not the main issue in what we're talking about. HDL was really good. Look at this, 61. So this person does exercise, right? So this kind of outweighs this one, which is borderline. We want it to be below 130, maybe below 100 if they have heart disease or diabetes. Glucose is about 108. Hemoglobin A1C of 5.5, which is really good. Homocysteine levels down. LP(a). By the way, LP(a) has to be above 32, 35. Mine's like 90 when I started. APOB under 80. So she's all good genetically. So she's a pattern A, which is what we're going to talk about. So exercise, lifestyle modifications, and supplements. Always supplements. Case 4, this is the opposite of this one now. 42-year-old white male smoker, no alcohol, coffee, caffeine, soda, likes sweets and carbs. This is the typical patient in my office, Brazilian guy in my office. Meat and smoking, but they drink alcohol too. They love sweets. Total cholesterol, usually like 240. This one's actually pretty good. LDL, you'll see, is pretty good, 130. HDL, terrible, 34, should be 50. Triglycerides, terrible, should be 100 or less, 320. LP little a 50 like mine, so he has this. This is an accelerator of cardiovascular disease. And look at this, hemoglobin A1C is not too bad. So you might do this and say, I'm going to put him on some diet and exercise. It's not too bad. He's not diabetic. He's borderline. He's right on the line. But if you look at these, you see that he's a time bomb. Look at his homocysteine level. This guy's ready to stroke out or have a heart attack. And his AB, he has all three, which is rare. He has all three of these. He has the APOB, which makes his LDL float around and do nothing. LP little a, which increases the damaged LDL and causes accelerated heart disease. And homocysteine, which is the widowmaker, causes you to have heart attack and strokes. But he's borderline. So you might look at this guy and say, well, he's not the worst guy in the crew. But he is, because we're not using this definition of HDL and triglycerides, you see? So this guy would be pre-diabetic pattern B, so pattern B is the bad one. This would be a pattern A. So what the heck is pattern A and pattern B? I'm glad you asked that. I have a slide for that. All right, so these are the two phenotypes that we use. Pattern A is the good one. So LDL, statins work well here. You get the LDL, the buoyant and fluffy. Okay. The triglycerides ratio of 2-to-1, which I told you is what you want, not higher than that. Low VLDL, which is another form of triglycerides. Low high sensitivity CRP, which is what Dr. Len was talking about, very important. Low hemoglobin A1C, and usually negative on these. Now, I'm a pattern B, which is not good, but it helped me learn all this stuff. So when you have this stuff going on inside your body, you tend to get really smart really quick, especially when the other doctors don't have answers for you. LDL, statin's not really effective on oxidized LDL. That's why they use high doses. Small, dense, oxidized, damaged LDL. Increased cardiovascular risk through triglycerides, HDL ratio greater than 4-to-1. So this is the one I want you to take home. Besides that home IR, is this triglyceride HDL ratio. It's really easy to do. It's going to tell you a lot about the patient. More than the hemoglobin A1C. VLDL is elevated, high. My CRP when I started was 10. Now it's 0.5. Started at 10. Normal's up to 3, 1 to 3. Now I'm 0.5. I was 10 when I started. So basically bad. APOB, I was negative, but they usually have one of these positive. I was positive with the worst one, of course. LP little a. My homocysteine was negative. I had magnesium deficiency, vitamin. Oh, so we use SpectraCell. I did my ratio, right? My micronutrient. So we could teach you guys how to do this. It's really easy. You get a really good report. It tells you your tendency for diabetes and heart disease. So I was low in something called manganese. So I had to go back to like chemistry class in high school. We used to have these little strips of manganese that we burned. It's a metal, right? And manganese, I looked it up. What does it cause? Diabetes, type 2 diabetes. So manganese is another one. So we'll do all these weird ones that you never heard of. And I had to take manganese supplementation. Luckily, it's not that bad. It's in a lot of stuff. But I needed it because of stress. And mine was my job. And of course, hemoglobin A1C greater than 6, which mine was 9 when I started. But again, it was pre-diabetes because I didn't have all this stuff, and I was able to reverse it. If you have a 9 for 20 years, then you might not be able to reverse it, right? So there's an acute phase, a middle phase, and an end phase, just like in cancer, right? All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty now. These are the formulations. Cholesterol red we talked about. So this is the one that has the microactive CoQ10 and the B3 and the chromium, right? This uses that track system, right? So the chelated. The chromium is really good for energy. And the red yeast is our statin analog. Cinnamon, chromium, vanadium, ALA, glucose. So we use these together a lot. And this one you can use in high doses if you need to. The chromium and vanadium are really good for energy. And the B3 you need to make testosterone. And the B5 and the B6 you need. B12 for energy. And the ALA is like the metformin. Okay, my favorites. These are my two favorites. That's why they're on the same slide. SPM, I think we talked about it a lot, but I'll just go over it. It's a specialized form of omega-3. Like Jamie said, you can go back to a regular omega-3, but I stay on this one. I take 2 of these every day. It's good for inflammation. I play soccer, so you need that. pathogenesis of many diseases, arthritis, all kinds of processes, autoimmune diseases. Nutraglutide is probably my number one. This is a newer product. It's probably my number one. This is my number two, only because this one's newer. Reduces inflammation, stress. It's got berberine for the gut, cinnamon, chromium, ashwagandha, lowers glucose levels, inflammation, and stress. Basically, every doctor needs to take this. Yes, sir?
Just one comment on nutraglutide, because this is still fairly new. It addresses the four main causes of metabolic syndrome, whereas you now told me prediabetes.
Yep.
Which is blood sugar, right? Stress, cortisol levels. Also, metabolic syndrome is actually burning the fat, right? So you have multiple mechanisms of action with this formula. Plus, it has a sirtuin G anti-inflammatory Sirtunax. So it actually cools down the pro-inflammatory fat cells. So four mechanisms of action has been our biggest launch since 2016. And obviously,
Yeah, and the ashwagandha is really a game changer, right? The insulin and ashwagandha are really, really important in that product.
And we use it for weight loss. So
Yeah.
anybody that wants to add that to their weight loss protocol, that's one of the key things that we're using. And I personally have used it and have had great success with
Anxiety, you can use it for anxiety, weight loss, because let's face it, stress is one of the most common causes of anxiety, of weight gain, right?
it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
the biggest thing we're getting our report back is less cravings and less eating.
Yeah. So these will reduce your cravings for, like berberine by itself, it cleans out your gut. It gets rid of the bad bacteria that causes all those food. You know why they show those commercials at 1 o'clock in the morning of that pizza with the cheese dripping? And you order pizza like an idiot, right? Or ice cream? Because they know you have that gut bacteria that talks directly to your brain. Yeah. It's kind of scary, right? So every patient gets this almost that comes in. Super K2 Plus. We have a 5,000. Now we have a Mega K2 Plus with a 10,000. This has the vitamin A, the vitamin D, magnesium, and a K2, of course. And I think everybody needs this. I mean, almost nobody doesn't need it. It's rare when I find somebody, oh my God, I call everybody over. Look at this. The whole office, this person doesn't need vitamin D. Write this day down. It's like amazing. But, anti-inflammatory. Vitamin D is a hormone. It's not a vitamin. It was named wrong. I call it hormone vitamin D in the office. Magnesium, vascular repair, damage control, and K2, like the theme, the underlying theme in our lecture today, helps regenerate the mitochondria. And it's been proven if you take vitamin K2, you get more energy, like to exercise at the gym and do your projects. So if you're a procrastinator, K2 is your vitamin, and it's a fat soluble. It's made in the gut. It's very hard to make in the gut, so you basically need to supplement, just like vitamin D3. Super B complete. Now you might say this is kind of a weird one to throw in here. Okay, B vitamins. Well, they're natural nerve calming vitamins. Like we have a Neuropath Ease, another version of this. But I like this one because of the B3, the B5 lowers triglycerides. It helps with the inflamed LDL. And also you have B12 for energy levels. Most people are deficient in B vitamins, especially if you drink coffee or alcohol, you pee them out. One of the things we put in the banana bags and the IVs on patients. I wouldn't be complete without talking about the CircuCore. We already mentioned this. Again, the nitric oxide is the only nutrient that's a gas that I know of. This you could use also for sexual health, like the guys coming in for erectile dysfunction. It also helps any kind of circulation problems, people with bad legs, varicose veins, and pains. Okay, so one of my favorite products, the way I take this is I usually will add the lean greens into the Super Shake. So I kind of get a double whammy of a detox. And this has all your vitamins and vegan protein, so you don't get a lot of bloating. And you get the benefit of the MCT oil, which we said can regenerate mitochondrial function. This is kind of a new product for us. We used to use the chewable one, this Entero CoQ10. These are our CoQ10 products. They have L-carnitine and DMG also. And you can use this for gum disease, oxygen utilization. I mean, there's so many uses for this. It should be in a lecture by itself. And you do have the vitamin E for the LDL reduction. This is a pill form capsule, and this is a chewable. I like the chewable. We eat this in my office. I give it to all the patients. I have one there. They all get it in their mouth, and then they buy it. It's important to let patients try some of these things. So we have things that they can try, and we make little shakes for them and have them try it, and they usually buy it. Any questions?
Can we give Dr. Silva a round of applause, please?
Give me a call anytime if you guys have any questions. We now have 8 of these black ones in my office. These are gone. These are somewhere else. We have 3 here, and we have a whole room now. This is the front desk. And then I just want to show you, this is our waiting room. I want to show you one more slide. So when Jamie said making the world healthy, we're going to stick him with that. And this is Santos, Brazil.
We're going to Brazil. Hang on.
So stay tuned for this, but we were going to make this an international company very soon. Okay?
Woo, buddy. So I want to thank Dr. Silva so much for giving us so much information and really sharing with us how to calm the fire in the cardiovascular system tonight. Again, everybody will get a copy of the presentation, but Jamie and I were talking, and I decided that since, I know I said I, didn't I? That since you guys all came out tonight, not only do you have in your packets that were in your bags a discount code for 15% off the entire line. That's off of their wholesale, James. And not only do we have that, but we are extending just for this room only our Buy More, Save More that you can combine that 15% off with. So if you would, yes, you can tonight. Tonight you can double dip. We are running it only until tomorrow. So if you would like to take advantage of that, it's exclusive to our Tampa VIPs. So thank you so much for coming. Dr. Silva, I'm going to ask you to come up here for one more minute. I'm going to ask you to come up with 3 questions, okay, from your lecture. And whoever answers them, I'm going to come around and give them the product of their choice. Actually, Harriet's going to come around and give them the product of their choice.
Okay.
Oh, are you still mic'd up?
No, I'll use that one.
Back at it.
All right. Question number 1. Name one product that helps with mitochondrial function. What's that? That's right.
Good job. Good job.
That's correct.
It is my personal one, but I can give you this protein. All right. Yes.
All right. Question number 2, a little bit easier. That way we get more hands up. Name one vitamin or nutrient that helps with type 2 diabetes. Magnesium. Yes. D3, magnesium. Yes, that was one of. Very good.
Would you like to take something from your table? I saw you.
There was no delay in case you guys missed that. It was like right out of her mouth. Magnesium.
You may. You may. And our Super B has DMG in it too. It's got B17 in there, so that's great.
All right, the last one will go a little bit hard for the guys that were really paying
All right,
attention.
if you want 5, we'll do 5 questions. We got more products on the table.
Good, good.
Jeez, okay, you good?
So,
I know you got it.
name one thing that B vitamins do.
What? Methylation.
Yes,
Is that
yes,
a decent answer?
yes.
Okay with that? Okay.
Let's name another one. What's another one? Energy. What'd you say? Red blood cells. Yes. So, question number 4. What vitamin helps reduce hemoglobin A1C? He knows. He made the vitamin.
I know, he's smiling.
It's a very common one in Florida. D3. It's actually vitamin C. But yeah, but D also helps. I'll take D3 as an alternate. The last one? Last one. Which type of LDL do statins mainly work on? Fluffy. Got it. See that? You guys learned. Very good. Very, very good. These are important because your patients are going to ask you these questions, and if you have the answers to it, you're going to be more successful, right? And if you have the knowledge behind it, most people do not.
So if you can answer their questions, they're more likely to buy the products and get treatment from you and get better. And remember, our goal is not to sell products, it's to treat patients and make them better. Unfortunately, we haven't invented Wi-Fi products yet. I think Jamie's working on them, where you buy them, you put them in the closet, and in the middle of the night,
They just come in.
they come in through Wi-Fi in your, I think Elon Musk and Jamie are working on that. Some brain implant. But right now, you actually have to take the supplements, right?
Yes. All right. I hope we get to see everybody at the professional training event the first weekend in April. If you are not signed up, please sign up. And our fearless leader has one more thing to say.
When did that Double Dipper expire?
The Double Dipper expires officially tomorrow at midnight. You have 24 hours, okay? Because I know we're a little bit late tonight, so you have until tomorrow night. It is in their packets that are in their bag in that cute little folder. It has the VIP code for your 15% off. If you look in, yep, thank you very much, my lovely assistant up front. Big 15% off, okay? And then when you go to build your basket, you will get the discount, okay? Thanks everybody for coming out. It was so good to see you, and Tampa rocks. We love you guys.